What if I told you that everything you learned about how life arose on Earth could be completely wrong? That there is a very real possibility that our origin is not the result of natural evolution, but rather the outcome of deliberate intervention by beings from other worlds. Have you ever stopped to think about why all the ancient cultures of the world, from the Sumerians to the Mayans, from the Egyptians to the Hindus, speak of beings who descended from the heavens and created humanity? Why do these civilizations, separated by oceans and millennia, tell such similar stories about gods who came from the stars? Is this just a cosmic coincidence, or is there something much deeper happening here? The answer to this question could completely revolutionize our understanding of human existence. For decades, archaeologists, geneticists, and independent researchers have been discovering evidence that suggests a far more extraordinary origin for our species. Evidence that mainstream science prefers to ignore, discoveries that have been deliberately concealed, and theories that can explain not only our origin, but also our destiny. Today, we will dive into a journey that will challenge everything you think you know about our existence. We will explore the records of the Anunnaki, analyze the anomalies in human DNA, investigate the systematic destruction of archaeological evidence, and connect dots that form an impressive picture of our true history. Prepare yourself, because by the end of this video, your view of the origin of life will never be the same. The story begins more than 6,000 years ago in the ancient clay tablets of Mesopotamia, in the cradle of human civilization. There, buried for millennia in the sands of present-day Iraq, we find the most detailed and precise records about the Anunnaki, beings described as coming from the planet Nibiru, who arrived on Earth approximately 450,000 years ago in search of gold to save their dying atmosphere. But here is the point that should leave us deeply intrigued. These are not fairy tales or primitive mythology created by the imaginative minds of ancient peoples. These are extremely detailed historical records that describe advanced technologies, precise astronomical knowledge about constellations and planets that we only discovered recently, and procedures that we now recognize as sophisticated genetic engineering. Zecharia Sitchin, one of the greatest experts in ancient languages and a scholar of Mesopotamian civilizations, devoted more than 30 years of his life to translating these cuneiform tablets. What he discovered goes far beyond simple archaeological curiosity and enters the territory of the extraordinary. The texts describe in detail how the Anunnaki, led by the scientist-geneticist Enki, performed complex genetic experiments, mixing their own DNA with that of terrestrial primates to create a hybrid race of intelligent workers. The process was neither simple nor immediate. The tablets relate multiple attempts, initial failures, and gradual refinements until they achieved the desired result. They describe laboratories, artificial fertilization procedures, and even ethical discussions among the Anunnaki themselves about the morality of creating a sentient species to serve as a workforce. The Hebrew word Adam does not just mean first man, but also red clay, red earth. And here we have a fascinating coincidence that deserves our attention. Our DNA contains iron in abundance, especially in hemoglobin, which gives that reddish coloration to human blood. Casual coincidence or scientific evidence that we were literally molded from red clay, exactly as the oldest scriptures of humanity say. What makes this theory even more fascinating and scientifically intriguing is how it connects almost perfectly with cultures around the world that never had contact with each other. In ancient Mexico, long before the arrival of the Europeans, the Aztecs spoke of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent who descended from the heavens to teach humanity about agriculture, astronomy, mathematics, and advanced medicine. In millennial India, The sacred Vedic texts describe with impressive detail the Vimanas, flying machines of the gods who came from the stars, capable of traveling not only through terrestrial skies, but between planets and dimensions. These ancient texts include technical instructions on aerial navigation, types of fuel, and even aerial combat strategies that seem taken from modern military manuals. In ancient Egypt, the hieroglyphs on the walls of temples and pyramids show beings with strange helmets flying objects that look suspiciously like spaceships, and pharaohs being presented to gods who clearly do not possess normal human characteristics. Egyptian texts speak of a golden age when the Neteru, the gods, directly ruled the earth and openly coexisted with humans. In Sumeria, the cradle of writing and urban civilization, we find the most technical and detailed descriptions of how the Anunnaki used advanced biotechnology to create and modify life forms. The texts speak of underground laboratories, genetic manipulation equipment, and even discussions about the ethical implications of creating artificial life. But perhaps the most intriguing of all are the Nephilim mentioned in the Bible and other ancient religious texts. The book of Genesis speaks clearly and directly about sons of God who related to daughters of men, generating a race of giants endowed with extraordinary abilities. The book of Enoch, mysteriously removed from the official biblical canon, describes these watchers as advanced beings who descended from heaven and taught humanity forbidden knowledge about metallurgy, astronomy, medicine, and magic. Why were these stories systematically removed from official religious texts over the centuries? What kind of knowledge was being deliberately hidden from common humanity? And more importantly, why did religious leaders consider this information too dangerous to be preserved? Here is where modern science meets ancient mythology in a disturbing and fascinating way. Francis Crick, co-discoverer of the structure of DNA, Nobel Prize winner, and one of the most respected scientists of the 20th century, proposed a revolutionary theory called directed panspermia. According to his rigorous scientific hypothesis, life on Earth may have been deliberately seeded by a technologically advanced extraterrestrial civilization. Crick was not a crazy conspiracy theorist or a dreamer without scientific basis. He was a brilliant geneticist whose discoveries laid the foundation for all modern molecular biology. And his theory of directed panspermia arises from a solid and mathematically provable scientific observation. The extraordinary complexity of DNA is so sophisticated that it would be statistically impossible to have arisen by pure chance in the time available since the formation of Earth. To understand the magnitude of this impossibility, consider that our genetic code contains approximately 3 billion base pairs organized in specific sequences that determine each characteristic of our organism. The mathematical probability of this having formed randomly through natural chemical processes is less than the chance of a tornado passing through a junkyard, and by pure chance, assembling a fully functional Boeing 747 with all electronic systems operating perfectly. Carl Sagan, another world-renowned scientist initially skeptical about extraterrestrial life, came to admit that the complexity of life suggests the possibility of intelligent intervention. He calculated that the chances of amino acids spontaneously organizing to form a single functional protein are approximately 1 in 10 to the 130th power, a number greater than the total of atoms in the observable universe. But there is another, even more disturbing mystery hidden in our own DNA. Human chromosome 2 presents clear evidence of having resulted from the artificial fusion of 2 ancestral chromosomes. It is literally as if someone had deliberately modified our genetic code using advanced molecular engineering techniques. Chimpanzees, our closest evolutionary relatives, have 48 chromosomes, while we have only 46. This difference marks exactly the point where our evolution separated drastically from all other terrestrial primates. For more than a century, archaeologists, paleontologists, and explorers around the world have been finding skeletons of gigantic humanoid beings that completely challenge our understanding of human evolution. We are not talking about merely tall people or isolated cases of pathological gigantism, but anatomically perfect skeletons measuring 10, 13, 16, and even 23 feet in height, found on different continents and historical periods. What is most disturbing is that these extraordinary archaeological findings have been systematically confiscated by governmental and academic institutions, removed from museums, and never again made available for public or independent scientific study. It is as if there existed a deliberate conspiracy to hide evidence that could revolutionize our understanding of human history. In 1912, official archaeological excavations in Wisconsin discovered dozens of giant skeletons in ancient mounds, some measuring more than 10 feet in height. The detailed official report was initially published, but then mysteriously disappeared from the archives of the Smithsonian Institution. When researchers tried to locate the skeletons for further study, they were informed that they had been lost or accidentally destroyed. In Nevada, miners discovered giant red-haired mummies preserved in dry caves, some measuring more than 8 feet in height. These mummies possessed distinctly non-Native American facial characteristics, natural red hair, and sophisticated mummification technology. The mummies were quickly confiscated by the University of California and were never again studied publicly or made available for independent analysis. Why is there this systematic and coordinated effort to hide evidence of giants in human history? Could it be because they would prove the ancient scriptures about the Nephilim and validate biblical accounts that official science prefers to treat as myths? Or because they would reveal that our evolutionary history is much more complex and extraordinary than current academic models can explain? In South America, pre-Columbian legends consistently speak of tall beings with light hair and blue eyes who taught advanced agriculture, precise astronomy, and megalithic construction techniques to local civilizations. These beings were revered as Viracocha by the Incas, Kukulkan by the Mayans, and Quetzalcoatl by the Aztecs. Curiously, naturally preserved mummies of tall people with blonde hair and European characteristics have been discovered in Andean regions of Peru, in areas where genetically this specific phenotype should not have existed thousands of years ago. An extremely disturbing pattern emerges when we carefully analyze the history of great civilizations and their repositories of knowledge. Whenever ancient cultures reach extraordinary levels of scientific, technological, or spiritual sophistication, something catastrophic and apparently deliberate happens to destroy or disperse their most important archives. The legendary Library of Alexandria, which supposedly contained the accumulated knowledge of all ancient civilizations, was systematically burned and destroyed over several centuries. It was not a single accidental fire, but multiple waves of deliberate destruction that eliminated millions of unique texts about advanced history, science, medicine, and spirituality. The Mayan codices, which contained extraordinarily precise astronomical knowledge and detailed prophecies about cosmic cycles, were systematically burned by Spanish conquistadors under direct orders from the Inquisition. Of the thousands of codices that existed, only 4 survived to the present day, and even these were deliberately fragmented and scattered among different institutions to make comprehensive research difficult. The Sumerian cuneiform tablets, which contain the most detailed descriptions about the Anunnaki and ancient technologies, have been strategically scattered among museums and private collections around the world, making it virtually impossible for any independent researcher to have access to the complete set of information necessary for conclusive analyses. More recently, we have witnessed the deliberate and systematic destruction of archaeological sites in the Middle East, a region considered the cradle of human civilization. The Islamic State did not destroy Palmyra, Nimrud, and other ancient sites simply out of blind religious fanaticism. They attacked specifically and strategically locations that contained artifacts from the most ancient periods of humanity, as if they knew exactly what they were eliminating. It is almost as if there existed a deliberate and coordinated force, operating through different epochs and cultures, systematically trying to erase our true ancestral history. As if someone or some group did not want humanity to discover its real origins and evolutionary potential. In 2003, after decades of intensive research and billions of dollars invested, the Human Genome Project was officially completed. Theoretically, we mapped all our DNA and should completely understand our genetic heritage. But the most intriguing and revolutionary discoveries were never widely disseminated to the public, remaining restricted to specialized scientific circles and classified as sensitive information. Scientists involved in the project discovered that an impressive 95% of our DNA was initially classified as junk DNA, supposedly without apparent biological function. However, more recent and sophisticated research revealed that this apparently inactive portion contains extremely complex coded information that we simply do not understand with our current technology. Russian geneticist Vladimir Poponin discovered that human DNA can directly influence light patterns and electromagnetic frequencies, suggesting that our genetic code interacts with dimensions of reality that we have not yet scientifically mapped. His experiments demonstrated that DNA continues to affect light particles even after being removed from the organism, implying quantum connections that challenge our current understanding of biology. Some independent researchers have suggested that this apparently inactive DNA may contain ancestral genetic memories, dormant instructions for extraordinary abilities, or even information about our true extraterrestrial origin, as if our species possessed latent potentials that were deliberately deactivated or that we have not yet learned to activate. Even more intriguing is the discovery that certain specific sequences of human DNA have no identifiable evolutionary precedent on Earth. It is as if these sequences had appeared from nowhere in our genetic lineage, inserted by some external intelligence with advanced knowledge of molecular engineering. Renowned geneticist Michael Puragunnan from New York University observed that human evolution presents inexplicable accelerations that violate the basic principles of gradual natural selection. In geologically very short periods, our species developed cognitive, linguistic, and technological characteristics that should naturally take millions of years to evolve through conventional Darwinian processes. Scattered around the world, we find ancient megalithic structures that completely challenge our understanding of the technology available to supposedly primitive civilizations. These constructions not only demonstrate advanced scientific knowledge and engineering, but also suggest access to technologies that we do not yet completely master in the modern era. Pumapunku, located on the Bolivian Altiplano at more than 13,000 feet altitude, presents stone blocks cut with precision that rivals modern laser equipment. The joints between the stones are so perfect that it is not possible to insert even a sheet of paper between them. And all this was accomplished without the use of any type of mortar or cement. The technology necessary to create these structures supposedly did not exist 15,000 years ago when the site was built. At Sacsayhuaman, on the outskirts of Cusco in Peru, gigantic stone blocks were transported over enormous distances and fitted with surgical precision that defies conventional explanation. Some of these blocks weigh more than 200 tons, being larger than modern three-story buildings. How did civilizations that officially did not know the wheel manage to move and position these monumental stones with such geometric perfection? In Turkey, Göbekli Tepe completely rewrote our understanding of human prehistory. This complex structure, more than 11,000 years old, was built by peoples who were officially still nomadic hunter-gatherers without fixed agriculture or advanced technology. However, the site demonstrates extraordinarily precise astronomical knowledge, incorporating complex celestial alignments that require systematic observation of the sky for centuries. Most mysterious is that Göbekli Tepe was deliberately buried, approximately 8,000 years ago, as if its builders wanted to preserve it for future generations, or hide it for some specific reason. Why would a civilization invest decades or centuries building such a sophisticated structure only to bury it later? These locations share specific characteristics that suggest common origin or at least shared influence. Precise astronomical orientation, based on advanced celestial knowledge, construction technology that exceeds conventional capabilities of their times, and symbols or artistic representations that appear consistently in cultures separated by continents and millennia. In recent years, the mainstream scientific community itself and official military institutions have finally begun to seriously consider the real possibility of intelligent extraterrestrial life visiting our planet. The SETI project continues to detect anomalous and structured signals from deep space, many of which demonstrate artificial intelligence patterns that we cannot decipher. Military and commercial pilots around the world report increasingly frequent encounters with flying objects that demonstrate technology far beyond our current or even theoretical capabilities. These objects execute maneuvers that violate fundamental laws of physics, accelerate instantly without producing sonic booms, and seem to completely ignore the effects of inertia and gravity. In 2020, the Pentagon officially recognized and disclosed the existence of UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, that exhibit impossible characteristics according to our current understanding of physics and aeronautical engineering. These objects make instantaneous directional changes at extraordinary speeds, stop abruptly in the air without gradual deceleration, and demonstrate capabilities that suggest mastery of technologies like gravitational manipulation or dimensional propulsion. Could these contemporary visitors be the same beings that our ancestors described as gods from the stars? Is it possible that they never really left Earth? They just became more discreet and selective in their interactions with humanity as our population and technology developed. Renowned theoretical physicist Michio Kaku, who for decades was publicly skeptical about UFOs and extraterrestrial life, recently changed his position and admitted that current evidence deserves serious and rigorous scientific investigation. He suggested that we are possibly being observed and studied by one or multiple civilizations technologically far more advanced than ours. A particularly intriguing theory emerges when we carefully analyze the historical patterns of appearances, sudden technological advances, and accelerated civilizational development. Extraterrestrial visits or interventions do not seem to be unique or random events, but follow precise cyclical patterns that can be traced through millennia of human history. Ancient civilizations around the world developed complex calendrical systems that speak specifically of cyclical eras, regular periods, when the gods return to evaluate humanity's progress and possibly intervene in our evolutionary development. These calendars are not based merely on simple astronomical observations, but incorporate extremely long cosmic cycles that require advanced knowledge about celestial mechanics. The Mayans developed an extraordinarily precise calendrical system that included the famous long count that symbolically ended in 2012, marking not the end of the world as was popularly interpreted, but the end of a great cosmic cycle and the beginning of a new era of human consciousness. Their texts speak specifically about the return of the star gods during periods of cyclical transition. The ancient Hindu texts describe the yugas, cyclical eras of humanity that extend over hundreds of thousands of years, during which human consciousness passes through phases of spiritual and technological development. According to these texts, we are currently entering a new era where lost ancestral knowledge will be rediscovered and our connection with stellar civilizations will be restored. The Sumerian records describe in detail the periodic return of Nibiru, the planet of the Anunnaki, which supposedly completes an orbit around our solar system every approximately 3,600 Earth years. According to these texts, during each close passage of Nibiru, representatives of the Anunnaki return to check the progress of their hybrid creation, humanity. Are we currently living through one of these crucial periods of cyclical transition? The exponential increase in UFO sightings in recent decades, the official military disclosure about unidentified aerial phenomena, the revolutionary archaeological discoveries that continually challenge the official historical chronology, all of this coinciding in our specific time does not seem to be mere coincidence. If these theories and evidence are correct, the implications for our understanding of human existence are profound and revolutionary. We are not cosmic orphans who arose by pure chance in a cold and empty universe, products of random genetic mutations that eventually developed consciousness. We are an integral part of a broader and more sophisticated galactic community, intentionally created with specific purpose by beings technologically and spiritually more evolved. This does not diminish our humanity or individual importance, but actually exponentially expands our understanding of our potential and destiny. We are unique hybrids, carrying in our DNA both terrestrial biological heritage and stellar genetic heritage. This would perfectly explain our apparently contradictory dual nature, our unique capacity to create beauty and destruction, our constant inner search for something greater than ourselves, our insatiable scientific curiosity, our compulsive need to explore and know the universe, our intuition that we are not alone in the cosmos, may be direct genetic inheritances from our extraterrestrial creators. The ancestral desire to return to the stars, present in all human cultures through myths and religions, would not be primitive fantasy, but ancestral memory deeply encoded in our genes. Our capacity for unconditional love, universal compassion, artistic creativity, and spiritual seeking may represent the highest aspects of our extraterrestrial heritage, while our territorial impulses, aggressiveness, and survival instincts would represent our terrestrial primate heritage. We are literally living bridges between two worlds, two forms of existence. We have reached the end of this extraordinary journey through the deepest mysteries of our origin, but we are actually only at the beginning of a much greater discovery about our true identity as a species. We have seen how ancient cultures separated by oceans and millennia preserved consistent and detailed accounts about our creation by advanced extraterrestrial beings. We explored rigorous scientific evidence that suggests deliberate genetic intervention in our evolution. We analyzed archaeological artifacts and megalithic structures that completely challenge our understanding of the technological capacity of ancient civilizations. What impresses me most profoundly is how all these apparently scattered elements connect organically, forming a coherent and logical picture of our origin. These are not isolated theories or conspiracy fantasies, but complementary pieces of a cosmic puzzle that reveals a much more extraordinary and inspiring truth about who we really are and what our role in the universe is. The fundamental question is no longer whether we were visited by extraterrestrials in the distant past. The evidence is too abundant to ignore. The real question is when we will finally have the collective courage to officially recognize our true cosmic heritage and accept the transformative implications of this revelation. When will we stop systematically ignoring the evidence that is right before our eyes, preserved in ancient texts, encoded in our DNA, and built in stone around the world? Perhaps the answer is closer than we imagine. With the progressive military disclosure about UFOs and unidentified aerial phenomena, with archaeological discoveries that continue to challenge the official historical chronology, with genetic advances that reveal inexplicable anomalies in our genetic code, we are living through an absolutely unique moment in human history. We are witnessing the gradual awakening of a cosmic consciousness that can reconnect us with our stellar origins and prepare us for the next stage of our evolution. As an intelligent hybrid species, our curiosity about the mysteries of existence is not accidental. It is our extraterrestrial genetic heritage calling us back home to our greater cosmic family. What do you think of all these fascinating connections? Could our origins really be much more extraordinary and inspiring than official institutions have taught us? Could we be hybrid descendants of an advanced stellar civilization destined to eventually reunite with our cosmic creators? Leave your honest opinion in the comments, because I believe that together, through dialogue and collective investigation, we can unravel these ancestral mysteries. And if you were genuinely fascinated by this journey of discovery and want to continue exploring the deepest secrets of existence, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications so you don't miss any investigation. We have many more extraordinary mysteries to explore together in the coming episodes. Until then, continue questioning the official version of history. Continue seeking truth through independent investigation, because it is definitely out there, waiting to be rediscovered and shared with humanity.